What reasons would your supplier have in increasing the prices of the jewelry they're producing for you? If you're a jewelry designer working with a supplier, it can be annoying and frustrating if they've decided to increase their prices, especially after you fixed your sales prices and sales have been steady for a few months or years for you. And so it's definitely not ideal to increase your prices. And if you're hesitant to because you don't want to lose any of your customers or at the most affect your brand and how your customers see you, then it also sucks if you have to take a hit and lose margin on your pieces. I get that, and I'm not trying to defend any manufacturers here, but I do want to share with you some of the reasons why sometimes suppliers don't have a choice but to increase their prices and pass them down to you. Ultimately, it's not ideal for suppliers to do it either, and naturally, we don't want to make it hard for customers by increasing prices. But I just want to go through a few underlying factors relating to the causes of potential price increases. If you're new to this channel, hello, I'm Kim, owner of Tide Design Distributors. We're a third-generation family business since 1975, where we have our manufacturing plant in Thailand producing high-end silver and gold jewelry exclusively for designers. And we've got our headquarters in London and a sales and support office in the US. And if you've got the time, please watch my intro video where it explains a little bit more about the purpose of this channel. And of course, please like or subscribe to the channel for all of my latest videos. Any questions you've got, be sure to put it down in the comment section below. So I want to start identifying maybe one of the biggest factors which certainly affects us as a manufacturer within the jewelry industry, which is metal prices, and how every large movement and change in the various metals can impact our production costs. Price fluctuations and how unpredictable the metal prices can be does make it difficult for manufacturers who are having to buy the metal in its raw material. And so in this instance, we'd be referring to silver and solid gold. And when we buy it at a much higher rate in pounds per ounce, then it increases the overall total cost of producing that item. The worst thing is the change in metal prices can be volatile and beyond our control. An example which I can remember really clearly was the 2008 financial crisis. And when the economy went into a recession, the price of metal shot up, taking a lot of companies in the jewelry industry out of business, especially those selling gold jewelry, since it has a much higher metal value than silver. And if you were still in the business and you have orders coming in and you're buying the silver and the gold bullion at a much higher price, which would have typically been passed to the customer. This leads to another price factor that we need to consider, which is plating charges. We do a lot of plating on top of sterling silver, but because the price of plating can also be affected by the change in the global metal prices, then if the price of gold goes up, then the price of the gold vermeil that you've ordered on your jewelry is also likely to go up too. For example, right now, there's a lot of concern on rhodium plating because there's such a high demand for it, not only in the jewelry industry, but in the larger steel industry. And it's all related to the need and demand for rhodium plating, regardless of what industry it's in. Another reason why your jewelry prices may go up are in the components that make up that jewelry piece, such as stone prices. What's happening with the mining, and is there a similar supply and demand issue that might have fluctuated the cost of the stones? Those are questions that we as a manufacturer look at, and these are, again, other things that could impact prices. One other factor which may or may not apply to yourself and all suppliers, and it does in my case because our manufacturing plant is in Thailand, is if you're buying from abroad, because the exchange rate will determine how far your currency will go. So if it changes in an unfavorable way, then that makes everything more expensive. For example, a piece of jewelry that might have costed $10 at one point might now cost $11 or $12. So your money doesn't go as far in the currency that you're buying, and actually that makes it a lot more expensive. Of course, it could go the other way around as well, where the pieces could be cheaper. And that's just the volatility of the market, which no one really has any control over. So what it means is that for suppliers who are manufacturing abroad and exporting goods out of the country, their pricing structure has to be important because they'll need to understand how the exchange rate might play into that and whether they're flexible enough to adjust to the changing exchange rate and how unpredictable it can be. Something that might not seem all that obvious is the increase in inflation in general. Again, something to bear in mind, particularly such as in my case, where we make handmade jewelry, because it's very much about high skilled labor. So it's something worth noting that there's the labor element, where it may not just be about the increased salaries for staff, but just a general rise in inflation overall, even if it's just a few percentage. Anyway, that factor shouldn't be shocking, but I just wanted you to be aware that there's that element that can play a role in price increase. Lastly, something we also need to be aware of is shipping charges. Now, I didn't want to put that at the top of my list because in general, shipping charges tend to be pretty stable, and the big companies such as FedEx, DHL, UPS ship all over the world, and it's a competitive business. I'm only mentioning it now because as time goes on, there could be, for instance, environmental pressures or fluctuations around fuel. So I've highlighted some of the main elements that manufacturers, particularly in the jewelry trade, may look at as the decisive factors when it comes to setting updated or increasing prices to their customers. Note that all manufacturers do it in their way. Some may be secretive about it, while others might be completely transparent with how they set their prices. We, for example, use our own various systems, and there's a variety of ways that pricing can be approached. I think if this is something that you might be concerned about, and if you haven't already had a discussion about this with your supplier, then I would suggest asking them about the likelihood of them increasing prices and when they would normally increase them. Some suppliers, for example, do yearly price reviews, but it's just good to be aware that at some point down the line, your prices may increase. And if so, you might potentially have to increase your own sell prices or take the hit on your margins. At the end of the day, a lot of these factors which may affect the change of prices are beyond anyone's control, and it's something that might just be inevitable. So be prepared and make sure you set a pricing plan ahead of time in case it ever comes to that. Really hope you found this video helpful, guys. Have a good day, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care. Bye.